Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Moving into the Future. Today, I'm joined by Kaushal Thakkar, Vice President of Cost Management at JLL. Kaushal, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's my pleasure. I've gotten to know you, over the years and what you're doing here at JLL as part of the project control team and implementing cost management services into JLL's, national services and account management services. But I also know, your personal story and how you got started in the industry, and that's why I wanted to have you on today, because you have such an interesting story and inspiring story. So, why don't you tell us, how did you get started in the industry?
Thanks, Jack. My industry is, first of all, this industry, what we have is one of the finest, I would say. And my journey from where I got started, Jersey, and New Jersey, I graduated with my mechanical engineering degree. But the initial days and where it all came, the thought of joining the construction field, is from my childhood. My father, my grandfathers, and uncles, everybody back home, all my workers. So the construction was always in the family, but my father was the one who chose not to go into that field. And when I decided to go back into the field, the circle of life was completed with that. And that's what, started off the journey from there. Started off a small general contractor in Jersey, where we used to do renovations for gas stations into 7-Elevens, and went into, from there on, came to New York City with one of the general contractor here. No names, but at the same time, the journey, the people who I've learned from is very interesting, and I thank them enough for supporting me throughout and helping me to where I am now.
Yeah, and especially when you're starting out, it was the same situation for me. You had your mechanical engineering degree, so you had some level of education and understanding of the industry as a whole. But in terms of applying that knowledge and, being boots on the ground and doing the real work, the day-to-day work, it can be a challenge, and it can be a little intimidating at times. So when you first were starting, what are some of the things that you learned and still apply, to your craft today?
So that's a very interesting question, right? But my most important thing I wanted to do was to learn,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're open-minded to learn, however it comes, right? The old school style, new school style, whatever it is, but you gotta be making sure that you are waiting to learn. And that's what I wanted to do. So that learning, what I've applied to till this date, and I pass it on to the next generation here as well, is to understand, to read the details. Mm-hmm. Look into the drawings, look into the constructability of each and every project that you're taking on. Understand conceptual thinking outside the box, supporting your team members, supporting your project managers, your client, or design consultants that you're working with. Collaborate with them, work together, and take that understanding throughout the project, every project, and that is when it can be successful. That's what I've learned, and I still continue that practice. And I let my team members know, let the colleagues know, this has been working, and if you just, that's my recommendation, right? If you take this understanding, you're gonna be successful in your road.
Absolutely, and that's something too, everybody can do, no matter what level of your career you're at or skill that you have. If you're capable of analyzing the details and fine-tooth combing, through these documents, through those drawings, and understanding them very specifically, you're going to provide a lot of value to your client. Because when you're in cost management, when you have a focus, and whatever that focus may be, architectures, engineers, but specifically in cost management with what you do, if you're able to provide such high value, even with me moving, these are things our clients are not looking for. They don't have the eye, right? So if we're able to apply our eye and intense focus to these projects specific to our craft, we're able to provide a distinct value to our clients that is unparalleled and unmatched. And again, that's something you've done very well here at JLL. So tell us, how long have you been working on the cost management team and implementing these practices and procedures, into JLL's national services?
So I joined JLL in 2019, August of 2019, and I really thank them for giving me the opportunity to serve and to support and help them grow the business here. We started off in New York City. Obviously, it was a team of two at the time, and we're now national practice, and we're growing. But as JLL, the firm, we did have cost management, cost estimating before me, and we are global. We do have global quantity surveyors, cost estimators, cost management, project controls folks across the globe, and we have subject matter experts, the licensed quantity surveyors, ASPE, all of that, certified estimators as well. We do have them across the board. And this journey that we have, what I've been able to contribute with the opportunity given is to provide the learnings what I've had from my general contractor days. Looking at, some people call it the dark side. I don't like to call it that way. But I would just say, that's also an interesting side of the table, right? Where you are in the field, you're learning so many things that you have from the field, bringing on to the owner's rep side. The biggest example that I always use is the scope gaps that would cause change orders for me. I'm now looking at those same areas to close those scope gaps and turn them into a cost savings and cost avoidances early on in pre-construction side. And that's what I'm able to support and share that knowledge with my team. You also mentioned about a point for the owners are looking for our guidance.
Right.
We are their trusted advisors, and we are representatives of them. And if we provide that quality value add early on, it's going to help them save so much of headache down the road during construction, because you just want to build.
Absolutely.
Right? They just want to move in, right? There's an end date, which we cannot miss. We have to meet that. So all of that is helping. Our value add is going to help them and be successful. And as JLL, our slogan for the company, see bright away, I want to do that every single day for my clients.
Yep.
So I'm thankful for JLL for giving me the opportunity, and I'm just one small person on that to help drive this national service line and help to grow.
Absolutely, and we've had a couple guests from JLL on the podcast, Paul Moss, Bob Knackle, and there's so many people here from not just in New York City, but as you mentioned, a global company that provides so many unique and valuable services. And getting back to what you're saying, you're really speaking my language in terms of being that trusted advisor. And again, it's exactly the same with what I do in moving.
Yeah.
You mentioned of finding those gaps in those areas, and we also share the similarity. I was on the end user side too. So I was working in-house for companies on their real estate team there. So as far as filling those gaps as a trusted advisor, you can see things and anticipate, different areas of how's the best way to put it? Areas of conflict that may arise, And by being able to get ahead of those, that's how you save money right there.
Exactly.
And that is how you avoid those change orders and get ahead of things. And it can be so many different areas. It can be electrical, it can be mechanical, plumbing, all sorts of things.
Exactly.
How, with your clients, how long is your project cycle? I mean, does it ever even end? What does it look like for you?
It depends. It's a very project basis, right? Some projects you would be looking at, again, it depends on what type of project. If it's renovation project, reconfiguration project, refresh project, it all have its timeline.
Okay.
Based on what finishes, what we're doing, what's the scope of work. It all defined from that. You have a defined scope of work, and then you can take that into, scope is here, here's my cost, what's going to be for that, and here's the schedule that goes with it. These three items are the pillars that you have to start working with that early on in pre-construction work. I would say not even before you're in pre-construction, it should be the back of napkin first of all.
Right.
An idea comes in from end user, from our client, and the client has engaged us as owner's rep. You would start first, these are the first three questions you'd be asking them. That, what is the scope of work? What's the timeline that you need this? And do you have a set budget for this? If you don't, we will help you with that, to define it. We'll help you to refine what the scope of work is, help you look at the lead times for that scope of work, if there's affecting, and the cost what that would be for that. And based on that, now you have a project it's coming in inception mode. From there on, you can follow the steps to look into how you're going to be executing it, what's your approach going to be, how you're going to be looking at look at constructability wise, who are the partners that we need to bring on board right away, engage them as early as possible if there's a tight deadline for the project. If you have enough time scheduled, then assemble subject matter experts who are going to be supporting that project.
Again, yeah.
The end goal is the client should succeed
Absolutely.
at the end of the day. So you bring the right people to the table and help them succeed.
Absolutely, and not to beat a dead horse here, but talking about JLL and all the resources that they have here, when you're able to ask those questions and identify those areas of who can help with this, who are going to be the thought leaders and specialists that are going to come in to this and make this project successful for you, based on your timeline, based on your scope of work, based on your budget.
Exactly.
And my next question I wanted to ask, and I'm really curious about, is can you give some examples? And obviously we talked about it, not mentioning any names, but of how you've been able to apply some of the knowledge that we were speaking about in terms of analyzing the data and information given to you and finding those areas and gaps and then saving the client money ultimately.
Yeah. So what we typically do is using best practices. Industry best practices are to be a client's partner, and throughout the process, technology tools and technologies that are industry standards, current industry standards, understanding what the market conditions are, understanding what the client is looking for, listen, and implement and write down each and every item what they're looking for. But again, at the same time, tools and technology, using quantity surveying tools, using the latest market data, analyze that data, is this accurate or not, escalations, supply chain, all of those best practices, apply that for the project in the inception stage. Then start looking at the scope gaps. What is not here? You know that when we put together a budget or design or a concept, test fit or anything like that, initial stages, we know that this is going to evolve. The details are going to come down the road.
Right.
Think of those details. Look at the floor to the ceiling. What do you see? I was taught from one of the finest contractors in New York City. Look from the floor to ceiling. What do you see? Right? You got floor tiles. You got look across what kind of finishes you have in the space. Look at the ceilings. What's above the ceilings? You're not going to see all of those things. Think of those items up front as conceptual. That's when you can start putting that into your initial conceptual estimates, and now you got everything covered. Now the value add from that is all your majority of the exposures. Again, until you open up the ceilings with existing conditions, you don't know that. But you're going to be looking at what's the conflict that I'm going to get. There's going to be conflicts. There's going to be hits on site. So that's existing conditions. But if you can capture all those up front, that's a value add up front. Now you got contingency, you got everything the majority of the items that you're bringing up on the table, and the client is made aware of it up front. Now, when you're in bringing value add is, what else can you add in terms of change order holiday? What else can you add on this top of it? Buying out the right job with the right team. It's all the companies across our New York State or across the country. We have subject matter experts for contractors, great team partners. We need to know who the team is, though. You're getting the right team for the project will go a long way. Go with the success model is going to be from there. We have to start ensuring you're also putting a process together. Here's the process we're going to be using. Not that as we go, we'll create the process. You need to know the process, what's there from day one, from the client side, and what you're going to be implementing it throughout the project life cycle. Hope I'm answering your question on that.
Absolutely. I wanted to find out what does that process look like? Are we talking in terms of process like meeting structures or timelines in terms of construction, substantial completion, opening, that sort of process, or what does that look like?
Yeah. So process for that, for schedule. Second is for process for how is this job going to be bought out, right? How is this job? What type of contracts are you going to get into? GMP contracts. So process guaranteed maximum price.
Okay.
So there are different types of contracts, right? You're going for a lump sum contract. Well, you need to have 100% set of drawings. Your drawings better be complete, without any scope gaps,
Yeah.
and because there's a risk involved in that too.
How often do you see that?
Don't see that often.
I was going to say, it
don't
doesn't
see
seem
that
smart.
often. Post COVID, I would say, we're hardly seeing those types of contracts.
Yeah.
Because everybody on the owner side of it wants to hear, wants to see, wants to bring in CM partner up early on to help with the pre-construction, supporting with us as owner's rep, to help them for constructability side of it and real actual market knowledge as well. So we do now work with partners side by side. But that early on is helping so much to the client. So now they're looking at lump sum. I'm not going to wait for 100% set of drawings. That's going to be an exposure.
Right.
I don't want to write a large amount of check, at 100% CD again.
Right.
I'd rather know all my risk exposures, cost exposures to schedule and cost. I would like to know that up front.
What's interesting about that too, or what I'm curious about is, how often are you seeing, especially in today's market with what's going on, a lot of exposure? Like when you have to take this to a client and say, listen, we're dealing with something here that's going to take a lot of time and effort in order to bridge these gaps. Is that something you see a lot, or what does that look like?
We do see on specialty projects, right?
Okay.
If you got
Like a specialty project, like what?
for like you're looking at replace chillers.
Oh, okay.
Replace generator.
Yeah.
Infrastructure projects.
Right.
Majority of the infrastructure. Also in renovation projects, if you're looking to have a specialty, let's say staircase, that's a long lead item.
Oh, yeah.
You want to replace elevator banks, refresh elevator cabs, or also you got anything for structural work that's modern fold or anything like that, right? So a specialty work.
Yeah.
You want to replace that, folding partitions. For that, you have to bring the facts to the client right away.
Right.
Don't wait for, if you see smoke somewhere, got to bring it
Yeah,
up now.
yeah.
Don't wait for the fire. So you want to make sure that you are bringing the facts, but also don't just bring the facts to them without giving a solution. This is a risk exposure, but don't just give them the risk only. You got to come up with a solution. That's when you're adding value to that. What is the solution for that? Like, well, let's look at alternate specifications. Let's look at how we're going to address that. Do we need to address our schedule now? Because end user, the client, they also have to take it to their end users.
Right.
On their end,
Right.
right? And it's all about communication. You want to communicate early on as much as possible.
Well, like you said,
Yeah.
getting that team and finding out,
Exactly.
who the partners are going to be throughout this.
Exactly.
That has to be identified quickly.
has.
And you brought it up too in terms of specialty projects. I didn't even think about, that aspect of things. Again, with me being in my focus with national office space retail, that type of work, I don't even think about those type of projects and specialty projects when you're talking about elevator banks or infrastructure and different things like that. What are the, I don't want to say most common, but, just in the last year, what are some of the different projects you've worked on? Because I know you're also working on other big office build outs, but you're also into hospital and hospitality and all sorts of projects like that. So
Yeah, as a jail, cost project controls business, we do have a variety of projects, sectors of business that we support, whether it's retail, whether it's office interiors, renovations work, ground up, core and shell, hospital, hotels. We support all sectors.
what's your
industries.
favorite type? Do you have one?
I'll be honest with you, mechanical, I might be biased. Infrastructure projects.
Yeah.
Those are whatever that challenges me.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's one every day that I could say, this has challenged me, and I learned something from it. And what I had learned previously from that project, can I implement it here? Is it going to be similar case, or can a similar approach? Can I take it here? I look at that. So anything that challenges, I love it.
Yeah.
I take the challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's really great too. And I wanted to talk too as far as, national and global work and when you're working with clients there, and especially from a cost management process, because one of the things I do well from a cost management perspective with my clients is once I do a project and perform a move or an opening or whatever it may be, from that time, the job is complete. I have data to analyze.
Yeah.
And then I can look at this project and say, okay, here's what we learned. Here's how moving forward we can do something new on a different project that's going to help us save money.
Yes.
Or save time and energy, all of the important things. How does that work with you and your team? I'm sure it's very similar, but you obviously, again, having JLL behind you and all of the resources and data that you speak of before, how do you present that to clients throughout the course of a year or, quarterly, whatever it may look like, project to project? How do you present that to the clients? And again, if there's anything you can share in terms of what you've done for clients in that sense, please do.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to be careful what I could share on that. Some limitations, but what we do is as nationally, we do publish our fit out guides.
Yeah.
That comes in every year, and 2024 should be coming up in about a couple months or so. The time frame, not 100% sure on that yet, but we have a great research team who puts that together and presents it for the market, for the end user clients. It's out for the public, obviously. And internally also for our brokerage team, right? We have so many umbrellas, it's such an amazing company that we have. There's so many different divisions, so many different businesses, sectors that we have internally as well. And it's helpful to them, right? It's an office fit out guide, retail fit out guide, you name it, right? Infrastructure, industrial. There's outlooks are presented each year and quarterly for our internal and external. So something like that, we use that data. We want to make sure obviously everybody's common goal and our industry partners, comparable companies, competitors, everybody could be using the similar goal is accuracy. Accuracy has to be there. You want to make sure, again, it's not exact to the dollar, but it's a good range that you're providing, benchmark, based on what you have, historical data. You analyze the historical data, ensure that the descriptions, what's there, what the costs are for that, what you're putting it on the fit out guides, has to match with what the market's current trends are.
Yeah.
When you you have to do your due diligence when you're putting together those things as well, not just with your actuals. What is the current trend now, supply chain wise?
Yeah.
How are you looking at what is the supply chain right now? Look at New York City. What's the trend right now that's happening? Is there a lot of local law 97 work?
Right.
Are we seeing a lot of landlord fit out work? Are we seeing tenant fit out works as well? Facade works, sidewalks, plaza, amenities, terraces. I mean, so many trends are out there. So you got to analyze all that data that comes in and then put it all together in a nice in a package that tells you that here's our due diligence, what we have done as a firm, and we're presenting it to you.
Wow, that is incredible.
Yeah.
And two, for your brokerage team, it's so incredibly
Yes.
valuable for them.
For them, absolutely.
To understand,
Yes.
those market trends and what we're seeing, and the data being accurate makes it much easier for them to attack the market and
Yes.
be a again trusted advisor for their clients to make accurate decisions on their portfolios.
Yes.
Very, very interesting. And I wanted to get back to, we were talking about it earlier, and something you mentioned as far as looking floor to ceiling. When you walk into a space, I've taken that on as well. More so from a even design move, like if we were to move this room here, everything that goes into this, how long. Actually, as a matter of fact, I think the advanced group did move this in here.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I always look at it that way. And but anyways, getting back to what you were saying, earlier in your career, because again, people hearing you speak today can tell you're incredibly knowledgeable with what you do and how you look at it. How earlier in your career, what else did you learn? What else became valuable to you? You talk about looking floor to ceiling, but what other mentor advice? You talked about working for one of the best GCs in the city. How did that help you when you were coming up in your career?
So that's a very good question. My early days, as I said, I have mechanical engineering background, but I also do have biomedical engineering background as well. So I got dual engineering there. The way I started off, at first I was working, I did not want to join construction. I'll be very honest and straightforward on that. Then what happened is biomedical engineering, I worked on it for 6 months, which I forget to mention in my initial conversation there. I worked it for 6 months, and I was working on a closed lab for stem cell research.
Wow.
And I said, this is not for me. I'm a people person. I got to be out there. I got to talk to people. I got to, bring what I know from the childhood, right? So when I was looking to transition off of that, the first thing that came up is me. It's like, I have a mechanical engineering degree. Why am I not thinking on that? So why should I go for my licensing further? Should I become licensed and practice that, or work with a larger firm, engineering firm, and work through that? And that's when one of the final gentlemen in Jersey who came up, unfortunate last year he actually passed away.
I'm
God
sorry.
rest his soul in peace. And one of the finest gentlemen, he taught me, about the construction piece and to put it together. Estimating was I learned from him, and then one day, New York City, one of the finest contractors, gives me an opportunity to work for him. What I got to learn from there, the basics to intermediate skills from there, learning every single day what he knew, right? And then implement into what I can do better from there, learn myself, continue learning. And the team that he had, and every day I used to stay up late and work with him. Hey, can you show me? I could use your help on this one, because my mindset was I want to learn.
Yeah.
Right.
Curious mind. That's what I was going to say.
The curious mind. Right. And that's what I think we should always be open for that. If we're not, then
You're dying,
you're gonna stay there
Right.
in that small bubble every day. Right. But if you want to grow, you have to be open to all that. And from there on, I learned so much about estimating, understanding constructability, thinking outside the box. What's there on that on the drawings, but what's not there on the drawings? The details that's not there. If the details there's conflicting, well, I'll be very honest to you. I was biased on that side because we could always be looking for change orders too.
Right.
Hey, I don't see this one. There's no RFI. This is a change order for us. We'll be making money on that, right? But what I also learned was to be fair to our end users, to the client. If you're honest and being fair, that RFI that scope right away, that shows that the client's going to start trusting you. That I learned from the first contractor who supported me, and who gave me the opportunity. And from there on, journey, obviously keep learning, and then implement that learning every day, and then pass it on to the next generation from there. Right. That's what I've been doing. So
Yeah, and I agree with you so much too, and like that's part of the reason why I do that. That's part of the reason why I'm sitting here today with you, is because I do have that curious mindset, and I always want to learn. And it's not so much that I'm going to apply that, although I probably will, but as far as applying this to my day to day, who knows? But the fact is that I have these conversations, and when you engage and you really listen and understand, because like you said, passing down that knowledge, that's exactly what that gentleman wanted to do for you. You were a willing participant, and you can see that, and when you're able to see that in somebody else, you're always going to do what you can to guide them and, provide them with whatever they need, because that ambition is infectious.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's really interesting. And again, I know one of the things too that we're both working on is, so providing clients with the best support based on their needs. And that's one of the things I always do. Obviously, the advanced group focuses in, moving and furniture and tech services. But clients come to me all the time for, shredding and painting and, facility services. And I always do what I can for them. What do those conversations look like for you? Because again, they know typically that JLL has all of these services up front. Are they coming to you and saying, or are you asking the question, again, filling in those gaps, like, who are you using for your moving services? Have you thought about a service like this that you might need down the road? Are you having those type of conversations?
Yeah, I mean, we do work with partnership with our PDS. Our division is PDS, Project Development Services, right? So that's where and Development Services.
Development Services, got it.
Which is our project controls is part of that service line. And what we do, when we're sitting down with the client and understanding what their project looks like, asking them the right questions about who the consultants are going to be, recommending the consultants what you're going to need. Depends on what the type of work they have, right? And then obviously guide them with these are the disciplines you're going to be looking for, you're going to be needing for this particular project, whether you have it in-house, whether you already have a MSA with the specific vendors that you regularly do the services, bring them on board, or whether we're going to be supporting you with that services and bringing an RFP together and all that process. Typical process where we would be reaching out to you and competitors just to make sure it's competitive bidding
Right.
process and all that stuff. But I mean, that's something we do have that on project to project, and I believe our project managers are going to be the leaders.
Yeah.
Right. For me, internally, my project manager is also my internal client. I treat them with that because that's something. If you bring that respect towards in your process and approach, then my project manager is also my internal client. Now you're making sure that you want them to succeed.
Exactly.
Because they're client facing, right? They are doing the client services, their client facing service day-to-day basis. They're helping them manage the entire project.
Right.
You are one piece of that project, but they're overall managing the entire project. And that's where our services that we'd be looking at will be coming in for that.
How are you servicing the project manager? Like, again, are you going to them? Because the project manager is the one client facing.
Yeah.
So they're speaking to the client. Are you then going to them with the reports or, drawings and saying, here are some gaps, like that sort of things? Is that the discussions you're having?
We work side by side.
Right.
We work side by side. It's not, we're not reporting into them, but again, we work side by side as partners together. Because at the end of the day, we're one team, right? That's one team, cohesiveness, working together with that, making sure that you're succeeding, you're making them, they succeed, because they're the project lead on the job, right? You're supporting them.
Right.
So when you have a risk exposure coming in, yes, we do. We will first one will be like raising the red flag. You have to be that raising the red flag, and then you want to bring them up. And they said, because we're partners working that, is it, Kaushal, that's your red flag? Just bring it up in the call. Absolutely, that's yours. So that's the kind of respect we have for each other, right? So that's that's how we bring value add. And they'll be start looking at that. And they're project managers, because I see them that when you're looking at a typical project comes in for let's say for move, right? Well, client doesn't have services in-house. Now we want to do an RFP together. Well, the first thing is, JLPM, can you recommend an RFP process? Well, yes, we have an RFP bid form. We start looking into those things together. We're together, support it. We do. That's how we're providing it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And see, again, that's just incredibly valuable for the client.
Yeah.
To have all those resources. Well, Kaushal, this has been a fascinating and informative conversation. I appreciate this so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me here, and looking forward to share knowledge anytime. Work with the partners like yourself, and just our goal is to provide quality, accuracy, and consistent service for our clients.
That is very similar to what we do at the Advanced Group too. That's why we work well together.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Kaushal, and thank you everybody for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much again.